Thank you very much. I think one thing that this panel does point out is that I think there is agreement that the high cost of oil is really driving much of everything, including gasoline, cost of fuel, transportation, all of that. And there may not be agreement on what part ethanol production has, et cetera. So I think it's really important as we proceed that we need to have fact-based solutions. We should not go charging off into so-called solutions that really may not address the problem accurately. And I did want to note that Mr. Buez, is that how you pronounce your name? Baez, sorry. Excuse me. Baez. Yes, I noted that you suggested one of the things we should do is cut the subsidies, multi-billion-dollar subsidies to big oil. And that's a start. I'd be curious to know what the other panelists think about that as an immediate kind of a thing that Congress could do.
Well, again, energy policy is not my level of expertise, but I think a comprehensive review of all the factors is very critical. And as you said, so that we have some hard numbers and some real data, so that we don't just act and then have to deal with the negative or positive results down the line. That we make some real positive and sort of long-term plans.
And that is what we're attempting to do in many of our committees, not just this committee, but the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, the Energy Committees, all of these committees. But as a start, in a situation where big oil is making multi-billion-dollar in profits, record profits, does it make sense to you that we continue to give them huge subsidies, taxpayer subsidies?
Well, it depends if the subsidies were put in place for them to perform in the marketplace. They were supposed to go out and find other sources, find other resources, do search. I mean, I would not know, again, similar to a restaurant owner or a baker owner, not having the expertise, but certainly knowing good business practice. If the government put those subsidies in place so that it could, stabilize our oil supply, maybe it's just the enforcement of what they're getting the subsidies for that would solve the problem.
I guess I'm shocked to hear the bakers defend subsidies to oil and at the same time be suggesting that we should be eliminating subsidies for the domestic renewable energy industry. I just find that a little bit hard to believe when we're looking at $125 a barrel of oil. I agree with you, Congresswoman. We ought to be looking at this issue and from a fact-based standpoint. But as some people have suggested on this panel, and Governor Perry from Texas has called for eliminating the renewable fuel standard as a thing that's going to help reduce food price inflation. In fact, we looked at that very closely, and we determined that if you were to eliminate the renewable fuel standard in the way that Governor Perry from Texas has requested, gasoline prices would actually increase from $3.68 to $4.79. Now, I got into this business because I was never very good at math, but I think that's $1.14 on top of record high gasoline prices. That will impact consumers. That will impact each one of these gentlemen and their businesses in a very meaningful way.
Mr. Thomas, did you want to add something to this discussion?
Well, I would just echo that that's not my area of expertise either. I think any and all things should be looked at, and I think your point of the fact-based, there's information that I think that we need to also keep in mind with the biofuel issue, and one of the points that was not brought up that I'd like to just mention is that there's a lot of question around the efficiency of that as a real fuel source. I've seen a study reported on CNN that it requires over 20% more fossil fuel to manufacture, refine, and actually burn one of these biofuels. So, and I think the other piece is looking at the shortage. We can say that it's all these petroleum products and the profits that these companies are making that is driving the food price up. But the fact of the matter is there is a shortage. We have an all-time low reserve on our grain products. In fact, even it was just recently reported a national retailer is having to ration some of their products to their customers and stuff. So I think there is a shortage, and it comes back to the supply and demand thing. But
I have to correct the record. There's not a shortage. In fact, we added to the surplus of production almost every year. We're short in wheat. We're short in some specialty rice that's imported into this country, not because of our production of rice. We have more rice than we've had in the last 3 years in the United States.
I think my time is almost up, but again, this discussion we're having points out how important it is to get our facts straight.
Right,
So
right. And if
I appreciate your comments.
Just one comment. I was,
Up to the
Madam Chair, just surprised that the Renewable Fuel Association wants to get rid of the subsidies for the oil companies, but wants to keep them for themselves. And I find that making my argument. Thank you.